Hey folks, welcome back to DIY guitar making. Let me fix the screen here real quick. Sorry about the delay. I had to reinstall Discord and it was this whole thing on my computer. But hey, we're here, and let me know, by the way, if there's anything wrong with the stream, if it's choppy, or if you can't hear me at all or something like that, because I am still very, very new to this live streaming thing, just figuring it out on the fly with you guys. With that said, if you like what I do and you get a little something out of the lessons that I teach, you guys know what to do. Go to ericschaferguitars.com. You can check out my schedule of hands-on workshops there, my online structured courses, and a whole bunch of other stuff too. You know, the radio rosette maker jigs that I sell, and all of this free information that I put out there. I do want to mention that there is two openings actually. There's one available spot in a March 20th to 24th Florentine cutaway and advanced bindings and purflings workshop. So that's kind of like my 102 course where we learn sort of more advanced stuff. If you want to check that out, it's a 5-day course, one spot, probably will fill pretty quick, but I just wanted to throw that out there. And there's also one spot in the April, I might get this wrong, but let me see if I can do it. April 12th through 19th. I don't have any notes with me here today. So if those numbers are slightly off, the website is accurate. Whatever's on there is accurate. So April 12th through 19th, that is not a Florentine cutaway class. That is a standard workshop, the 8-day workshop where we build a full guitar in just 8 days with just 2 students. Okay, with all that said, we're just gonna wing this here, guys. We're gonna jump right into the Discord. I haven't really, I looked at the Discord just enough to come up with a title for this episode and really nothing more. So I just looked at a couple topics that were in there and created a title. I'm sure we'll get to those topics that are in the title and way, way, way more, because I have been out of it for a while, just because I've been so busy here in the shop for a number of reasons. One, business has just been good lately and it's just been busy. I, just finished building a guitar, a commission, and a whole bunch of classes, and I have a whole bunch of classes lined up for later in the year as well. So just, dealing with the onboarding those students and everything, it's just been a process. And then the really big thing that's been happening here is my wife and I are planning on relocating not just our home, but the shop, so that we can have them both in the same place on the same property. Whereas right now, I live in Reading, we live in Reading, and I commute out here 30 minutes to do my work, and then, 30 minutes back home. So we just want to bring the two things together. It's, it might happen very fast, or it might take like 2 years or so just to find a home and get everything moved. There's even a possibility that we are considering purchasing a home and then just building on site a pole barn and outfitting it to be a really awesome guitar making workshop. So stay tuned for all that in the future. Just peeking over here at the chat, please let me know, someone out there, if if everything's working. It's very helpful to me just to know that we're actually live. So just give me a shout. Say something, please. But in the meantime, we'll just jump right ahead into the Discord. So let me pull that up. There we go. It's up. All right. So I'm just gonna kind of start randomly here. Let's see what Larry Kuhn has to say. Larry writes, this is on cracking tops, so this will probably be a great question here. Actually, this is an earlier question that I think we covered in a past live stream, but other people have continued to pile on to this. So yeah, I'm gonna just kind of shorten this up for you guys. So he's got two cracks coming off the back of the bridge. He's got a nice picture of it right there. Okay, very common problem, both from drying out and possibly from some issue with either the bracing or how the bridge was glued, or just too much tension on the guitar as a whole. If you left it at very high tension, above standard pitch for a long time, and especially in a bad environment like an attic or a car. So anyway, that's what he's looking at there. And Phil, adding to this, Phil writes, I am a novice, but I had a guitar crack once and it was a factory built. Humidity comes to mind when I think about cracks. Could the room you are keeping it in experience a dip in the humidity when the heater goes on? Yes, absolutely. If the top is thin and you add the stress of expanding and contracting, that could cause a crack. One of the things I do is coat the inside of my builds with shellac so that there is finish on both sides of the wood, and that is supposed to cause the inside and the outside to react at more the same rate, which some luthiers say, discourages cracks. Okay, so that's absolutely correct. What causes things to crack more so than expansion and contraction sometimes is what he's talking about, which is that difference between expansion and contraction on one surface as opposed to another, because then you're causing stress to the wood. That's, when you leave actually I have a piece of wood right here. When you get a cup like this, see how that's cupped? The only reason that's cupped is not simply because the room dried out, but because this surface dried out more or at a faster rate than this surface. Okay, the cupped side is always the dry side. And so very likely this was the exposed surface on top, and this bottom surface was probably pushed up against something, so it was experiencing a different rate of exchange with the surrounding air. Super common to see stuff like that. But on a finished guitar, a completed instrument, you have that same thing is at play there. So that's a very good point, Phil. I think there was something else I wanted to say about that. Oh, finishing the inside with shellac, I think is a great idea. It takes a lot of time. You got to do it with a brush, and it's just one more thing to do. I would say it helps, but generally when you're getting big cracks like that, there's probably a lot more going on. It's not necessarily going to save you if you have very serious humidity problems wherever you're storing your guitar, but it will save you in more benign cases. So first things first, Larry Kuhn, is to just check out the bigger picture of how you're storing your guitar. Check out the temperature, check out the humidity, try and stabilize that a little bit. All right. Let's keep on rolling here, guys. Oh, sounds good. Patrick Nowlin writes, sounds good. Thank you so much, Patrick, because without you, I'm flying blind here. I don't know what's going on. All right, let's check this out. Excuse me, guys. Spanish guitar number 1. Okay. Gregory writes, I'm going to make a Solera this weekend and see how it goes from there. Semi-friendly writes, are you using any particular plans/models? Nice to have plans, but I don't have any. I do have articles about the Romanios Solera, Eugene Clark, and Samajin, what they do. No, I didn't make it yet. Still studying. Okay. So Solera is, for you guys who don't know, that's a work board that's traditionally used for making classical guitars in the steel string world, a world that a lot of you guys are more familiar with, and I am more familiar with. We tend to use these exterior molds. Instead of the exterior mold, a Solera is more of a free form way of constructing a guitar, where you simply have a work board with a bunch of slits in it, through which you can put spool clamps in those slits and basically design your guitar to really any shape you want. You literally, a lot of builders will just draw the shape, trace the shape onto the workboard, and then assemble the sides in there and push those spool clamps right up to where that pencil line is in order to, assemble that guitar. It's really hard to explain that without a picture. Again, if I was doing this with a little more prepared, I would set up some pictures for you for the stream. But you get the idea. So there's no question there. He's, I guess, just throwing it out there that he's starting on Spanish guitar number 1. That's super cool because I'm still on Spanish guitar number 0. I don't necessarily have plans to build a classical guitar, but if I ever do in the future, you will be one ahead of me. So I will have many questions for you. Let's see. We'll just skip that one for now. We're going to check out the tools and jigs category of the Discord here, and it looks like Rick Malloy. Let's see what's going on with him. He's talking about these manual disc sanders for miters. I don't know what the question he has yet is, but I'm sure it's got something to do with this. I love these. These are really hard to get, maybe impossible to get right now. But this is a manual disc sander from the picture framing industry, actually. So a very niche item, which niche always means it's very expensive. And it's called the Precision Sander Elite. Let me show you that right there. And these are either really expensive or just flat out not available. So good luck finding them right now. I think a couple people have posted alternatives to that you can get. But either way, if you could find yourself a way of having a nice little lightweight tabletop tiny manual disc sander, that does wonders for your ability to just miter small parts like braces and binding strips. Very, very helpful tool. Let's see. Rick Malloy writes, when I took Eric's second class, we used a manual disc sander. So the second class he's referring to the Florentine cutaway class that I talked about in the beginning of this. Second class, we used a manual disc sander to get the miters. The one he used the class isn't made anymore. Okay, I didn't know that. So they're not even making that anymore. I'm glad I got 2 of them before that happened. Okay, it took a bit, but I found another maker. I haven't used it yet, and it's different, so I don't know how well it will work, but I wanted to at least share it. It's made by ITW and is called the Amp Miter Disc Sander. They're expensive and only a few are available used. Okay, so I think he's saying you can't get them new. The one thing I'm not sure about, this one pins the wood to be mitered in place, and then you move the disc to the wood instead of moving the wood to the disc. Okay, I see what he's saying. And it's a pretty big difference. So like I said, not sure about it yet. Yeah, you know what I'll say about that, Rick, just from looking at the picture there. There was actually a similar thing. Here, I'll pull this out again. There was, I'm not sure exactly what's going on there in his picture, but there was a similar thing on this. You can see there's like this little hole right in the middle. That's a threaded hole, and there was a little adjustable fence on this, and I simply removed it. And from looking at that picture, I can see that whatever is on there is removable. Not that what's on there isn't useful in some case, but it might be, you might be better off removing it and only putting it on there if you have a need for using some sort of fence, which from what you saw in my class when you took it, Rick, I think you'll find if you're doing a lot of the same things that I'm doing, that 90% of the time or more, you just don't need all these extra little contraptions on it. You just want a free and clear surface like this and a nice square wheel. Okay. So I would just take that stuff off. Don't throw it out, of course, but keep it to the side and use it if you need to. But hey, try it out for a little bit first, because maybe those fences, maybe you like them. I just didn't like them on the model that I had. All right. Okay, so that's Rick's question. Jumping around here. Okay, it's been so long since I did one of these, and since I've answered a lot of stuff in here, that you have to bear with me because I often will need to take a moment just to kind of skim some of the words in the question to make sure it's not an older question that I already covered. All right. Okay, here we go. R. Breen writes, what do you use to oil or polish up the fretboard and bridge? So first, right off the bat, I'll just say what I use, which is most of the time I use boiled linseed oil, really just because it's what I kind of started out with. A lot of people use it. It's early on, somebody, handed me some boiled linseed oil, and I've just been doing that ever since. I've also used lemon oil. A lot of players use lemon oil. It's a kind of a common uh, product you can buy even at like a guitar center or something for oiling your fretboard. So either of those work. In fact, it's one of those things, oiling up the fretboard. I How do I want to put this? It's one of those things where I wouldn't really overthink that. Like if I couldn't use boiled linseed oil anymore, I wouldn't panic. I would just switch to lemon oil. There's a lot of options and they all work pretty good. I should say I also use true oil sometimes, but I only do that because that's more like a finish. So with the boiled linseed oil, that's more like a conditioner of the wood. It's like a um, temporary thing, whereas the temporary thing where you have to reapply like every once in a while. Whereas the true oil is more of a permanent thing. So I will use true oil on woods that are not themselves very oily, like maple or Wengi. I did recently. I'll be using true oil on this. This is bird's eye maple right here, although I haven't put it on there yet. But that's you're kind of finishing the surface in that case because those woods, it's not wise to just leave them raw because they don't have all these natural oils present. The reason why rosewood and ebony are so popular and why you don't see a finish on those woods on almost all guitars is because they have natural oils. They don't really need the finish. You can get away with a raw surface, and there's a good reasons to do that. So anyway, what I'll do on the true oil end, if I have to use true oil, is I will apply the true oil before I install the frets, but after the board has been, shaped and radiused and the slots have been cut and all of that. So before the frets go in, although I haven't really experimented with it, you probably can rub the finish in with the frets on there. In fact, let's see what LC Guitars says here, because maybe he has had some experience with that. Let's see. LC Guitars writes, I use a thinned out true oil on the fretboard before I fret, then a few more coats on it after doing the fret level, crown, and polish. Okay, so it sounds like he applies with a rag right over the fret wire. And then going on with his comment, the bridge depends on the wood. Rosewood and ebony, I buff on a buffing wheel after sanding to 800/1000 grit, then hit it with Howard's feed and wax, beeswax and orange oil. Oh, very cool. I haven't used that. Okay, Larry Kuhn writes, I use my buffing wheel with beautiful results. That's great. LC Guitars writes, to clarify how I oil the fretboard, I use a method a good bit different to Eric's. I apply the oil on the fretboard fairly lightly, allow it to soak in for 3 to 5 minutes, then buff it off with a clean, lint-free rag. Wait a few hours, then do it again. After fretting, leveling, and polish. I clean the fretboard up and apply 2 to 3 coats in the same fashion. Wipe it on, let it set for a few minutes, and then buff off. Lately, I've switched to a micro crystalline wax as my final treatment of the fretboard before strings, and it's called Renaissance Wax. Okay, that's great. I'll have to try that. He's got a picture of it here. Yeah, or video. All right. Yeah, he's just showing you the sheen on that. And that does look really good. I will try that wax. Yeah, I don't have any problem with anything you said there, LC Guitars. I like your method. I'm actually still trying to figure out. I'm just playing around with True Oil on the fretboards. So that's good to hear that at least someone out there is just applying it straight over the fret wire, because I wanted to try that. So that gives me a little more confidence to try it that way. That can simplify some things for me. Okay, let's see what's going on over here. Here we got a whole bunch more True Oil questions. Let's check out Benjamin Channels. Benjamin Channels, by the way, is the founder of a nonprofit that is working closely with me. They are collecting donations for U.S. military special operators as they're transitioning out of the military to essentially take this class. So people who donate to Reveille Guitar Project, their donations are going directly to a U.S. military special operator to take this class as a way of transitioning back into civilian life, and to kind of figure out what they're doing, and in some cases deal with some of the PTSD that they might be dealing with. So anyway, it's just a really cool project. I'm not running it. I'm not, a part of the actual nonprofit. I'm just at the other end of it, sort of the receiving end. They send students this way, and it's really cool. I think his long-term plan is eventually to have their own facility where they're housing people and running them through their own courses on site. But for now, they're coming over here. So it's actually been a really cool journey myself. Just to we've done 2 classes so far, just to hang out with these guys. So that's Reveille Guitar Project. If you type that into the Googles, you'll find it pretty quick. And if you want to throw them a donation, that'd be awesome. And hey, let me know if you do. I just would like to hear about that. You can, send me a comment on one of my videos or an email and just say, hey, I'm supporting Reveille Guitar Project. Okay. So where is he? Benjamin Channels. So that's who runs Reveille Guitar Project. And he recently took the course with one of the special operators. He himself is a special operator. And so but him and a guy named Matt Berry took the class, and we had a great week. He writes, has anyone sanded after the 12 to 18 True Oil quarts and before buffing with the compound? Bad idea. I've used Asilex, which is great, by the way, on a spray poly finish, but didn't know if it would burn through the True Oil. Thanks, y'all. So actually sanding with True Oil is a funny topic where depending on who you ask, some people like myself will say, no, don't sand. You don't need to. But there are a lot of people who do True Oil finishes, and they do a leveling step, a sanding step at the end before buffing. And, the thing is, the reason why there's the controversy there is really because oil finishes don't need a sanding step. And in fact, you should not be sanding on an oil finish, but True Oil is slightly different. I don't understand this fully or know how to get into the chemistry of it, but essentially because it's a polymerized oil, it functions almost like a hybrid between an oil finish and, you know, more of like a film finish. So anyway, I remember in the early days of using True Oil, I have used sandpaper on it and with mixed results, some really bad. And I've seen other people use it with good results as well. So anyway, yes and no. I don't do it, but you could. A lot of people do. And you just gotta know what you're doing if you're gonna go the route of sanding. But if you're asking for a straight up recommendation from me, I would say, and this is what I always say to people, is focus on nailing the application. Okay, which is hard to do. You'll get better at it over time. But rather than relying on, you know, leveling out runs and inconsistencies and things like that, just try and nail the application of the True Oil in the first place so that you don't have to do anything. The last guitar I just built, I did, uh, what did I do? Like somewhere around 20 coats of True Oil, and that was it. It was done. There wasn't even buffing. You don't even really have to, if you nail the application, you don't even have to buff it at the end because literally the coats, you are essentially buffing on the coats if you're using if you're hand rubbing and, you know, basically using like a French polish style method. All right, well, let's read what Hobbyhound says. He says, hey, I do this when the True Oil gets bumpy around 6 to 12 coats. I use a wet dry 1000 grit with True Oil itself. So wet or dry 1000 grit sandpaper with True Oil itself and very light pressure to remove the bumps. It's then perfectly smooth, and I continue with True Oil, same as before, and redo as needed. Seems to work for me. Okay, well, there you go. Benjamin Channel says, I appreciate the advice. All right, so you've got two different viewpoints there. All right, let's okay, I already know where this is going. So the question here, or the topic, is True Oil and bridge area. The biggest challenge with finishing a guitar with the bridge attached, which is how I do it, um, you know, most people finish the guitar before the bridge is installed, so that you don't have to deal with the inside corners around the bridge. But anyway, well, let's just read Yaya's question, and but I think I know that's where he's going with this. Hi, everyone. This is my first post here. I don't think this question has already been asked here, but apologies if I'm wrong about that. I've completed 3 guitars since taking Eric's online class and am absolutely hooked on guitar building. Awesome, man. That's great. I'm glad you're hooked. Welcome to the club, and thanks for joining the class. Going on with his comment here, he writes, overall, I'm really pleased with the results of my True Oil finishes, except for one thing. No matter how hard I try, I always end up with a narrow 1/8 of an inch area just around the perimeter of the bridge, looking somehow fuzzy and rougher than the rest of the guitar. Am I the only one? Any ideas on how to improve this? He goes on with a little bit more. I'm going to stop right there, though, just to kind of answer that. No, you are not the only one. Everyone deals. It is what you are pinpointing there is the quintessential challenge of finishing a completed guitar with the bridge already attached, is that inside corner around the bridge. Also, to a slightly lesser degree, the inside corner around the fretboard tongue gives people a lot of problems too. But the best thing I can say is learn to make a carrot. Yes, carrot, as in carrot, but it's not the orange kind that you eat. Learn to make a carrot and use the carrot to rub into those inside corners. So when I do a French polish style True Oil finish, I have 2 pads every time I'm applying a coat. There's my main pad, and then, which is just, you know, either it's just some sort of lint-free cloth with a thicker cloth on the inside. You know, could be wool or could be, I use these blue shop towels actually. I kind of switched to just simply using these on the inside just to add some substance to the pad. But it's very important that that outer sheath of the pad is a lint-free cloth. If you go online, you can even find like I think it's called trace cloth. So it's basically if you Google French polish cloth, there are people selling cloth that essentially they've just ran through the washer like 6 times to get rid of all the lint. Okay. So you really want a good lint-free cloth that's not going to shed on your guitar, which is probably a part of why you're getting that roughness might be when you get into that corner, the pad, because it's bumping against these sort of sharp walls, it's going to shed a little more of that material. But the other problem is that's not actually getting right in all the way into that corner. So you actually likely have, you described an eighth of an inch of a rough area. A part of the reason that looks rough is likely because there's actually not really a substantial amount of finish there. You're kind of just looking at raw wood, and again, probably with little bits of lint that have been torn off from the sharper parts of the bridge. So there's kind of 2 tips right away in that what I just said. One is make sure you're easing the edges of the bridge so you don't have, especially those wings where you have kind of 90-degree corners. Make sure those you've eased off with 220 or 320 grit so they're essentially deburred and not sharp. Before you get to the finishing process, you're going to tear less fibers off your cloth. Even if it is a truly lint-free cloth, you can still create lint out of it by, rubbing it vigorously into sort of a sharp edge. It's going to tear the fibers and create lint. So, so that and using a carrot. Carrot is a cloth. How to describe this? So the best thing is if you use that term to look up a carrot and how to make one. You put your interior cloth onto your sheath, your exterior cloth, your lint-free cloth, and you kind of roll the two together uh, from the edges, the corners. Roll the corners inward until they meet, which creates a nice sort of fine tip in the middle, and you wrap a rubber band around that to hold it all together. And now you have essentially a purpose-built pointy cloth for getting into corners, because that big chunky fat pad, that main cloth, the mouse, that is simply not going to get into that corner of the bridge. Okay. One final tip on that, which I picked up from reading Irvin Samaji's book, is if you look at classical guitars, their bridges don't have these steep walled inside corners like a Martin style bridge does. They're actually very sloped. It's kind of like a gentle hill. If you think about the wings of the bridge in particular, but even the bridge overall is not this abrupt 90-degree structure rising up out of the top. It's more of this kind of slopey thing. And that's because if you think about the history of guitars, the way that we're talking about finishing a guitar right now with everything attached is how guitars were originally finished when they were using basically just oil finishes, varnishes, and shellac. And so the solution was actually designed into the guitar. They probably didn't even think about it much. They just naturally built bridges that made sense with their finishing method. And so I have used that on my own guitars. I'm sorry, I'm looking around because I'm trying to see if I have one nearby to grab and show you. And I don't, so you'll just have to take my word for it. But on my own guitars, I have redesigned my bridge to have these angles and slopes into it so that there is no 90-degree inside corner anywhere on the bridge. It's, more angled or sloped in. I say angled or sloped because the front edge I've just simply put a bevel on, and the back edge I did more of a round over. And in that way, when I'm finishing, I use the carrot to get I still use that to get into around the edges of the bridge, but the way the bridge is shaped, I then just kind of ride up onto the bridge smoothly and easily. All right. I hope that makes sense. Let me know in the chat. That was kind of a long answer there, but man, that is a great question because I have personally struggled with that forever. And I think everyone does who finishes after the guitar is fully built. But again, that's why most people don't finish that way because it's a serious challenge. Not insurmountable though. My guitars look pretty good now, but that's because I've put in the years of struggling with that exact issue that you're talking about. All right. You know what? So I'm in the True Oil section of the Discord. There's more questions here, but I spent a good time on True Oil there. So maybe I'll come back to these other True Oil type questions for another live stream, just so we have a little more variety here. Let's check this out. So Tom Casty. Hey, Tom, how's it going? Tom took my class, my workshop a couple of years ago. I'm not sure which year. And he looks like he picked up a broken Wishbase Gary guitar locally for $100. Wow, it had been dropped and stuff was rattling around inside. It seemed like a great cheap guitar to practice repairs on. Let's look at this thing. Now, I don't know, I've never heard of Wishbase Gary, but man, I mean, this is a Dire Harp guitar for $100, which is kind of crazy. Look at that rosette. That's kind of cool. Wow, what an interesting find. So going on, he writes, Wishbase guitars are only roughly finished, so there was lots to do. Fretboard was a mess and neck very roughly carved. Oh, yeah. Okay, so he's really trying to clean this up. Oh, wow, yeah. What happened to that fretboard? It doesn't look very good. So this is, definitely a home-built guitar, probably by an independent luthier. Not picking on the builder here because building a Dire Harp guitar in and of itself is such a unique and impressive challenge that that's pretty amazing. But you've got a lot of amateurish looking things to clean up here as far as just kind of the rough shaping of the neck, like you said, and some of the things on the fretboard. And I don't even know who this is, so I'm not picking on this guy. Just, okay, the frets were flat. The fret markers seem to be made of nails. Those are nails? Oh, yeah. Wow. So he drives the nails in and then, flush cuts them at the surface, it looks like. Wow. I later learned that luthier Steve Wisniewski uses mostly reclaimed materials. Then it made more sense to me. Yeah, so I mean that's really cool in a lot of ways. Wow, yeah, look at the inside of that. Anyway, I don't want to make for really uninteresting audio content here as I just go through these pictures. But let's get to more of his question/comment here. I removed the back to get at the busted bracing. It seemed rough, decided I would replace the bracing and put in merged linings. I'm not sure what merged linings means. More for practice than for anything else. I don't have high expectations of the finished project. These guitars cost $400 brand new. Wow. That's crazy. I wasn't a fan of the detail around the sound hole, so I took it off and crudely inlaid a replacement true to the original design. All right, let's Let's check that out. So yeah, that looks much better. I mean, I don't mind the original though, but I guess he didn't like the way it's rounded over. But that looks really sharp, what you did there. Very impressed. Nice job, Tom. I also added another sound hole on the harp side just for fun. Oh, that's cool. So he's got a side port. I got some maple boards at Home Depot and resawed it to make a new, wow, you're going in deep. So he's making a new back for it. I guess the back was trashed. New bracing and kerfed linings. Okay, wow, and this just goes on. Okay, that's great. Oh, okay. And so eventually, this is great. He finished it. I won't read everything he put there because there was a lot. You guys can check that out in the Discord if you're a member of the online guitar building school. So that's students who have purchased my online class or taken one of my workshops. You get access to this thing. You could follow that whole process that he has there. But most importantly, let's play just for a moment what I'm going to play here, which is this is Tom Casty's nephew, whose name is also Tom, Tom Anello, who's a professional fingerstyle guitar player, a really awesome fingerstyle guitar player. So he's going to play this Dire Harp guitar right now. Let's check it out. That is cool, man. That is great. Um, yeah, that's very interesting. You know, not a perfect guitar by any stretch. But hey, what guitars are perfect? But what a feat to have a Dire Harp guitar that you found for $100 and then refurbished. That's amazing. I'm still in shock that brand new there are Dire Harp guitars made by anyone that are brand new sold for $400. That just seems impossible to me. Okay. So let's hold on, let me get sorry guys. Accidentally turn the video back on. Let me get back into the Discord here. Let's jump over to general chit chat and just see what's going on. As always, lots of progress from Patrick. And here he's gluing the neck and end blocks in. Okay, looks like rosewood. I do this outside of the mold. Actually, that might be Wengi. No, that looks like rosewood. The sides are laminated, so they have very little flex. Love the idea of laminated sides, by the way. I cut them to length inside the mold. I then put the sides back in the mold to glue on solid linings. After that, no longer need the mold. The sides will not change shape. Okay. And all right, let's see what else. Oh, let's jump over to this. Larry Kuhn was at NAM. Not this week, but let's see. That would have been late January. He writes, I'm at NAM this week. There are a ton of beautiful instruments there, of course. Way too many to photograph. Thought I'd share a couple. So here's JOI Guitars, an OM built entirely from the tree. And let's take a look at that thing. Oh, that's gorgeous. Look at that rosette. Wow. Oh, I love that bridge design too. Really like that. And that's a very intriguing little sound side port. Those two little sort of squarish holes on the side. Okay, and there's just more of the tree. You know, as much as I make fun of the tree, it really is a unique and striking mahogany. Like you really don't find mahogany that looks like that. Okay, and there he's got Martin's 3 millionth guitar. I don't know what's going on there with the top, but that looks kind of cool. Is that like an end grain cut from a log? Or is that like paint or something? Somebody will have to answer that for me if you can. Oh, great. There's Uncle Tom in Boston. That's who I was just talking about. Um, we just played his nephew's music there for a moment. I will say too, if you guys were listening to that, if go check out Tom and Nello on Spotify or Amazon Music or whatever you have. And he's got, I think, 2 albums now, and they are really exceptional. So now I'm just taking a break to check out the chat here for a moment because I realize you guys have been saying stuff. Captain Willard writes, no sound, but I assume it was nice. Oh, okay. Well, we don't have to revisit that. So sorry, I guess I played that video and you guys didn't hear it, but I heard it. Okay. He writes, Uncle Tom in Boston, look up that luthier of that harp guitar, Steve Wisniewski of Wishbase Guitars in Asheville. You know what? I'll do that right now. Steve Wisniewski. We won't spend too much time on it, but let's home of Wishbase. We'll just check that out real quick. Okay. I'm not sure. Sorry, guys. I'm bad with this streaming stuff. So I don't think you can see my screen right now. Let me see if I can switch it. Well, it's fine. I'm not gonna. I don't want to get too derailed here. He has a website. You guys can check it out. He's got some inventory there. It looks like he does. I mean, just perusing real quick, it looks like he does 100% one-off builds, which is always really cool. Rather than having like set models, it looks like he just does, wild stuff. Very cool. Okay. All right. So let's jump back to the Discord and, more stuff from NAMM. I saw this guitar before. I saw it at the Woodstock show in New York with the all the gears inlaid onto it, onto the fretboard and onto the back. And I really liked how that one came out. And that's a Martin Dreadnought, by the way. Okay, very good. All right, new tool day for Patrick. Looks like he got the edge vise from Luthier Tool. So that's a part of Luthier Tool's system for doing the neck angle for cutting the mortise and tenon. They have a really awesome system for that. So if you're struggling with that, check that out. Not any special endorsement. They don't really know me, but I use their product and it's super expensive, but worth every penny, honestly. But you can also just get the edge vise separately. And I think a lot of you guys have bought just the edge vise because I use it a lot for my end wedges. And it works great. If you can't afford the whole setup, you can just buy the edge vise, and it actually is great for real quickly and accurately making your end wedge channel. And then it looks like on New Tool Day here, he also got some of those lovely finger planes that have the little handle that goes right into your palm. I've picked those up and I've kind of felt ergonomically how that's supposed to sit in your hand, but I've never actually used them. So let us know, Patrick, what you think. I would like to actually maybe get a couple of those in the shop. So that might end up on my list of tools in the future. All right. Tom Casti, my new and improved drum sander. Awesome, man. It's great to see you guys building your own tools. Oh, wow. What is going on here? Tom, do you have a handheld drill powering your drum sander? Am I seeing that? Wow, that's amazing. So I guess you run the drill and you lock it so it runs continuously, and that's your motor. All right. All right. Sorry guys, I got to scroll, skim a little bit here to find just something we want to talk about, a thread we want to pull on here. All right, so we'll all right, let's get into this a little bit. Because Rick Malloy is sorry, I'm trying to see where this thread begins because they're talking about FFT, which is for you left-brained, highly left-brained engineering types. It is like the gold standard of left brain Lutherie, like, you know, figuring out the resonance of a top. And there's a lot in the Trevor Gore book about this stuff. I don't get into this stuff really. I find it interesting, but it's I don't know. I'm more of a wing it kind of guy. I'm more of a, I guess, right-brained person when it comes to the voicing of a guitar. Anyway, I'm sorry, I kind of led you down that path, but that's a lot to get into right now. But why don't I just say this? FFT, if you're interested in it, check it out. Again, the Trevor Gore book. He's the most left-brained guy in Lutherie, I'd say. He wrote a book that is truly a math calculus textbook, but for guitar makers. It's crazy. It's crazy in how good it is, and also crazy in how painful it is for people like me to read it. Because it's like you'll have a paragraph of words here, which are great. I love words. And then there'll be just like a huge block of math problems below that, to which I just have to like kind of skim through it and, you know, get to another paragraph of words where, you know, you're speaking my language again. Anyway, so I'm really glad that we did this. Just, you know, getting back into the Discord and having a sort of back and forth with you guys here. Oh, and thank you. I was holding off on saying what FFT was because I couldn't remember. What that stands for is Fast Fourier Transform. Uncle Tom in Boston threw that out there. Captain Willard writes, my entire brain is on the left of my head. Okay, so he's very left brain then. I've met a lot of you guys in my classes. I get, it's funny because I'll get both, and even funnier because there's two people in the class, I'll have a hardcore left brain person and paired with a hardcore right brain person. And it's interesting to teach those classes because, you know, depending on how I explain something, I'm going to be confusing one person every time if I try to explain it more left-brained or more right-brained. Okay, Uncle Tom in Boston also writes, indeed, I do have a drill powering that thickness sander. That's amazing, or drum sander, I should say. Okay, very cool. So anyway, I got to get going. This was awesome. We're going to do it again. I'm telling you guys right now, I'm just going to set this up for the time being. for the foreseeable future as a Saturday at 9 a.m. thing. So after we're done here at some point, I will schedule the next live stream, and hey, let's do it again next Saturday. That'd be fun. All right. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.